This week's edition of Church Media Design TV is sponsored by dan'sInkandToner.com. Ink and toner and a whole lot more. Welcome to another edition of Church Media Design TV, tips, tricks, and how-to for you, the church media designer. I'm your host, Brad Zimmerman, and I come to you every week with different tips and tricks and tutorials and the whole nine yards on helping you use media to increase God's kingdom. And joined with me each week is the three wise men and Jesus. And, well, as you probably can see, the crew looks a little different, and there is a reason why. Dwight has been decapitated. This might be gruesome for our younger viewers, but Dwight's head broke off. He's actually getting ready for his role as the Headless Horseman for Halloween, and our table actually fell over before we started the show today, and Dwight's head broke off. Little Whitey's legs broke, and my computer monitor almost broke. So it was very scary to say the least bit. So we have a replacement. It's the three wise men and Jesus. We have Fred Flintstone, Little Whitey, Colonel Sanders, and of course Jesus Christ, the Son of the Lord Most High. And if the other guys don't learn their lesson soon, and very soon, their replacement will be coming. Because as you could see, I got somebody waiting on the bench to get into the big show. So if you break your head off on the show, you're gone, and somebody new comes in. Actually, I'm going to try to get a new Dwight or some other fun bobblehead to replace Dwight. So for now, we got Fred Flintstone hanging out with us. Well, there's a lot going on this week. We got some great links for you and a whole lot more, as well as we're doing an interview with Ben from thecommon.org, and you're going to hear a lot more about that in a little while, which it's going to be a great interview. We went out to their offices in Grand Rapids and hung out with him for the afternoon and got a chance to sit down and find out what that was all about. So if the replacement three wise men and Jesus are ready, let's get into it. Well, let's reach into the stockpile and grab you guys some great resources. And the first one is Worship House Kids. Now, I may have mentioned this before, but Worship House Kids has officially launched. And this is the kids version of Worship House Media, WorshipHouseMedia.com. They have all kids resources. And, well, let's let the guys introduce you to the site.
Hey guys! My name is Millie, and I'm so excited about Worship House Kids! Oh, this is fascinating.
Hey Rob, how's it going? What's going on here? You got a sock puppet?
Oh, hey Dale. Yeah, Millie was actually introducing our new website.
Well, I mean, with this promo video, I thought I was going to introduce Worship House Kids.
Okay.
Well, see, WorshipHouseKids.com is here. We're so excited. It's church media for kids. You can find video shorts, countdowns, song tracks, motions, you name it. Anything you can project for children's ministry, all in one place at WorshipHouseKids.com. See, how was that?
Shh. Millie went to sleep. I think you bored her. Good night, night. Dale's boring.
Well, our next resource happens to be YouVersion Live, which we've talked about before, but YouVersion Live has gone live. So you can go to YouVersionLive.com, create a group or community for yourself, grab your name before somebody else grabs it, and sign up for that. And one cool thing that they talked about doing while they were doing the kind of behind the scenes of how it all works was making it so you can embed this on your website. And they're actually, they launched that feature when they launched YouVersion Live. And so now you can actually use this as like right next to your live, if you guys are doing live streaming, you could put this right next to your live streaming player and have all your notes and all of that kind of stuff for people who are online, which is really cool. It saves a lot of work for me on this end to not have to come up with all of that live content each week. I can just embed that into the page. So I'm pretty excited about that. So YouVersion Live, check that out. And then last but not least, our friend Barton Damer over at Igniter Media and alreadybeenchewed.net ChurchMediaDesign.tv is giving away 47 high-res light streaks, and you can kind of see how these light streaks have been used in some other stuff, as well as how he used this in a Collide magazine deal. And you need to click on a link and then enter a password to download it from his MobileMe account, which I think we successfully crashed when he first launched this article. So let's try crash it again. So check out alreadybeenchewed.net, uversion.com/live, and worshiphousekids.com. Well, we're out in Grand Rapids at the Common.org's offices, and I'm here with Ben and Rick, and they're going to tell you a little bit more about what they do here. But a little background from my side: this past Sunday, our church launched the Common community for our church, and this was really a answer to a question my pastor has been asking me for the past 2 years. He's been wanting this way for us to help better facilitate needs in our community, and was like, hey, can you build me something that does this? And I'm like, I probably could, but do you want to give me a way bigger paycheck and not give me any other work except this for the next year? And so we never built it, and we had been searching, and we found the Common. So do you guys want to just let us know a little bit about like what your roles are and how this kind of got birthed and what the Common really is?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we're co-founders. I usually take over at this point of the conversation about where the sort of real genesis of it. Several years ago, I was actually sitting in church, and they said something to the effect of, we have everybody's email addresses, and we're going to be emailing ways for people to help each other in the community.
Like thousands of people.
Thousands of people. And I thought, that sounds like a complete and total nightmare, both as an end user, but also as a church administrator trying to coordinate and keep everything right. And I'm just anticipating that I'm going to start getting these totally irrelevant email blasts about things. And sure enough, a couple months later, I start receiving newsletters about adopting Sudanese refugees and things like that, which as a college student at the time, I was in no position to do.
Right.
But I could have maybe taken a slice of that need or been a part of it in some other way than just, come adopt a person, So having a background in kind of web projects, thought immediately it made a lot of sense to have a kind of a lightweight web-based platform for matching needs and abilities that was really, really simple and let people kind of slice and dice these things and manage that whole process themselves. So people could create their own needs, they could address needs, and it could just be this organic sort of process.
Yeah, it pulled the church out of the puzzle and put the two people, it got them in touch with each other and got the middleman out of it.
Absolutely. Because, as we've talked about it, the traditional model is you have basically an old-time operator sitting there at a desk, and they have cords, and they're plugging, Steve with the pickup truck into Marge, who needs to move her refrigerator. Yep. And you're just kind of making those physical connections, and there's a whole bunch of terrible...
Or attempting to.
And there's a whole bunch of terrible inefficiency with that. Everything from just identifying who has what abilities, contacting those people, sending out word to those things, and then managing the response to that. The classic, I need some help with a pickup truck, I get a response in 5 minutes, and now I have 50 people I need to say no to. That came after that.
Exactly.
So just letting people communicate with each other in a slightly more structured way on the web seemed like a really potent and powerful idea. So Ben and I both had backgrounds in web projects, and we met around that time, and kind of one thing led to another, and we started this project.
Yeah, so it was totally based off of this felt need. It wasn't just this pie in the sky idea that I'm going to force on somebody. It was, you were sitting in church, this was something that absolutely needed to be done to help this stuff flow better, and that's how it kind of got birthed
absolutely.
out.
I mean, it's a classic sort of issue that is clearly out there, and that the web is a really unique and good way to solve it.
Yeah, and I think we found that almost every church is already trying to do this. I mean, it's kind of part of the nature of the church. Like, okay, we've got a bunch of people, and there's kind of different categories of needs. There's needs that the church has, and then there's a bunch of needs that the people of the church have, and then there's needs outside of the church. And they all want to do this. And there's the 20 people that are in the volunteer group out of every 1,000 people at the church. But it could be more, but it's not efficient. And the explanation that, Rick was just talking about, the email thing. Well, you get one email that lists like 15 different things that are completely unrelated to something you can help with, you're not going to check the next one.
Exactly.
Like I wouldn't. It's going to become spam at that point. So it's kind of this thing like, this can be done better. Churches are already trying to do this, and their like core competency, to use that word, isn't to write great software. It's to be a great church and be a great body of people.
Shepherd a community.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. And your example is the perfect one. Sure, you could absolutely develop something like this. But again, is it the core competency of the church to create something with that much scale for one church, or could someone do it better where it could reach a lot of different communities, not just church specific?
And that's kind of where it led us to in terms of how we developed the Common. And is that the Common exists in specific instances in each church that is a part of it, but it's much bigger than that. It's a service that spans all sorts of churches and organizations. So all of a sudden you have the opportunity to what we call blend with different organizations and churches. So
you initially, when you sign up for the Common, you sign up for your community. Yep. So each church has their own individual instance, basically, of the Common.
Exactly.
But then, so that you're not hearing needs from some random guy across the country or in a different town. But also, like you're saying, you can actually blend those together. So let's say, here in town we have the Lakeshore Pregnancy Center, and they can be a community, and they have all of these needs, and they can blend with our church so that we can hear the needs of that community as well.
Yep. And they have a group of people that's tied into them as volunteers and stuff that might be outside the church as well, and it can all live together. You could have several churches of only a couple hundred people each. They could blend, and it just kind of becomes this big network.
Yeah, and I think the beauty is the scale of this, because you look at the church that I'm a part of, we're 300 people, and we could figure out how to remember every person and what they're good at and all of that kind of stuff. But your situation of being at a church that's thousands and thousands of people, it's like you can't even remember all of that stuff. So it's amazing that this works for churches that are really small to very, very large. And it's cool that you can, churches, a whole community could have all individual instances of their churches, but then they could blend together to create this greater network of churches in your town.
Yep.
Tearing down the walls between denominations and churches, which
absolutely
is amazing. I mean, that's what we want to see happen.
I think that when we talked about blending, it's interesting. It's actually going to be a feature in version 2, and we went ahead with version 1 because it was really kind of making sense. We had a really large church that wanted to use it, and they already had relationships with some downtown soup kitchens, some relief centers, and things like that. And basically, in effect, they're not going to give their entire mailing list, if they even have one, to one small agency and say, hey, spam everybody and ask them for help. Blending is a way to say, okay, everyone, single instance in a massive community saying, I like to do food preparation, so show me needs like that. And the administration of their church blends with the administration of this very tiny community that's doing, that has all these needs for meal preparation. And it's just very natural. There's nothing in the way of it. It's utilizing the asset of the community itself, the people, I think that's what's really cool about that.
Yeah, and I think that's it's awesome to see that blending happening, because it also makes it so that the people, when you sign up, you ask somebody in your church to sign up, you're not asking them to give away all of their rights to whoever you feel like should get that information.
That's true.
You're still protecting that end user from having their information put out on the web. And one thing I found interesting when we were getting ready to launch it is this whole idea of that it's not a normal web project where you can be who you want to be.
Yes, that's a good point.
You're you on the Common.
Yeah, that was part of the vision since the beginning. You can't engineer sin out of the system. So, but you can put simple things in place that aren't a terrible burden on people, but kind of give those layers of accountability and transparency. So we require everybody to use their real names. You can't be, Miss Cupcake 27 or Skater Boy 78, whatever it is. You have to be first names and last names.
That's what I wanted to use, but it's gone.
There's avatars. You have to use your picture, and then we architected the system so that it's you have physical sign-up days. So as your community, when you launch the Common, you physically verify that people are who they say they are with a driver's license or whatever, and kind of activate them into the system that way.
Yep.
Again, there's flexibility in that process, so you can be really rigid in that, or you can just kind of activate people automatically if you already know who they are and that sort of thing.
And so you guys have built in facilitators and administrators that are helping, say yay or nay to people being a part of the community to get started. But you also have facilitators that are stepping in. So I'm not working with Rick, and all of a sudden we don't know each other, and weird stuff starts happening. You got somebody else, third party, in to help that process out.
Every time. I'm sorry.
Oh no.
No, every time there's a project, and a project results when a person with an ability joins, the need that's been created by another person. We require kind of a third leg of the stool there. The facilitator is that third set of eyes, the accountability in that process, just to make sure there isn't goofy stuff going on, and that there's a tie back to folks that are trained with how to. However the community wishes to train them.
The social codes of that community.
The social codes of the community, so that they are, those are being followed. So. And
I think an interesting point on that, and you brought up the whole, this isn't like the normal internet. And I think there's a lot of churches, and I don't want to be rude sounding, but churches are just now catching up to using technology in the church.
Right. Yes, my mom's generation is the generation that's signing on Facebook.
Right.
Not my generation.
Right.
It's,
So I think what they've heard of the internet is they see YouTube, or they see the more general sites, and they hear maybe some of the negative things about them, or they see the comments listed, and it's just a free-for-all. The internet has been a free-for-all for a very long time. And Rick and you and I, we're all kind of part of this internet generation. We're actually kind of sick of that whole free-for-all. We don't really use goofy names when we interact on the internet. Right. Facebook is who I actually am, and I really enjoy that. I don't mind my friends seeing what I'm up to. And we took a lot of that with the Common, all the way down to the security of signing into it. But the facilitator is an interesting part. It almost at first seems like, okay, do you really need this third person? You've got a person that has a need, you got a person that wants to help, let them go. This third person, because you are acting inside of a community, it's important to have that second set of eyes of the person that knows the social code. But instead of that whole concept that maybe they're policing this thing, it's truly another person involved with matching this need and meeting this need. Now we've got even more people that are part of it, and more people that have met through the common.org. Because when you get past, like you're saying in your church, you get past 200 people, it's extremely difficult to, one, know everyone and know what they're good at and things that they've done, and not just have it be Sunday to Sunday, this is kind of in between. So the facilitator role is an interesting thing that we decided in the beginning. And it hasn't gotten in the way of people connecting and making things happen quickly. It's been an awesome part.
Well, one thing that we talk about on the show a lot is how to use technology and media to increase God's kingdom and to do it effectively. And I think we've talked a lot about how this is a very effective way of pulling that middleman out and that kind of stuff. But what is the, underneath the hood, what's the technology that's running all of this? What did you guys build this on? Did you build it from the ground up, or did you take somebody else's preformed platform and slap it on that?
Completely from the ground up. My background's actually in development. Rick's got had worked on some really large social network projects as well. And my background's actually in supply chain stuff, which is interesting. But it's all on Ruby on Rails. Everything is open source. And we started this thing literally on a whiteboard in an office not too far from here, sketching out some of the ideas that Rick had from the get-go about people with needs matching, with people with abilities and vice versa. And completely from the ground up. We now are in-house with our development, and that makes things a lot quicker. But we used a small firm to get us started. We're completely open source, completely web-based, obviously, and things of that nature. But and really, really focused on simplicity, and not just for kind of like, oh, we're going to be so simple, we're so cool, like check out our white space, but so that we don't have a demographic. We don't have a typical user. I don't want one. I want it to be whatever age group that church is comfortable having on there to 120 years old. If you can use email, you can use the common.org. And it's important because I think a lot of times, again, as churches are starting to embrace technology, I don't want them to be like, oh, well, we've got our elder group and all their friends, they don't really use it. Yep. That's not the case with the Common. In fact, some of the first match needs were with someone that was like 20 and a woman who was 55. There shouldn't be any difference. So Ruby on Rails and
custom developed.
Yeah, totally.
So how about scale? Because I know like Twitter started on Rails, and they ran into a lot of problems as far as that kind of stuff. Have you guys run into any of that as you've been developing that, as you've been throwing in these larger communities? And you guys launched this, a little sidebars, you guys launched this with a very, no one knows this church, Rob Bell, they've never heard of it. Very small community in Grand Rapids, but yeah, so huge community at Mars Hill is kind of the first community that was using the Common. And so you started with a big community, but as you've grown and developed this into an even larger thing, have you guys run into any problems with scale?
Fortunately, the shop that we worked with, and some, again, Rick and I's experience before, let us make smart decisions on making sure that the servers, the server companies and hosting companies that we were using would allow like virtual scaling for us. And then of course working with the shop, I'll plug them, Atomic Object here in town. They've worked on pretty massive projects and really think ahead on the style of coding that they're using. So it's not just like, my nephew, coding this for me or something. Yeah, I mean, Rails, I think has come a long way from the Twitter, and who knows what was going under the hood under Twitter. Right. I don't know, but like we've had no problems. I think email will be the one thing that we'll run into down the line. We've got really large communities that launch, and as tons of emails go out because people are getting alerts or new accounts are created. I think our number one concern would of course be, recognized as spam or something by one of the an ISP or two. But other than that,
that's an issue for everybody.
Yeah, it's just
newsletters. But I get so many newsletters that just immediately go in my spam folder, and week in and week out tell it that it's not spam, but somehow it magically still goes there.
We've actually been pretty lucky with that though, the whole spam thing. But other than that, in terms of the actual application itself, using test-driven development and Ruby on Rails and a very strict style of development that we've done, I can I can say for the most part, we haven't had any bugs. I mean, it's been pretty awesome. Yep. Compared to previous projects I worked on, it's been pretty amazing.
That's got to feel pretty good.
Yeah, it does.
So, you guys talked a little bit about open source, and I'm used to the internet, and I'm used to everything being free. Mm-hmm. And it sounds like there's a lot of work that's gone into this, and so it comes down to a price point. Yeah. What is this costing a church? If any of the viewers in their churches want to sign up for this, what is this going to cost them?
Yeah. Our pricing model is pretty straightforward, and it's a little bit unique, but I think explaining it makes a lot of sense to folks. So we charge $1 per active member per month. It's extremely utility driven. So if you have a community of 50 people and you sign up 40 of them, and in a given month only 20 of them sign into the Common, we only charge you $20. So that scales up. You have a very large community, you're going to get a ton more utility out of the system, and therefore we're going to charge you more for it. So it's $1 per active member.
And it's interesting, you kind of bring up, the internet that's famous for being free, everything is free. That's fine. I'm not necessarily upset with that. I don't think that that's a bad thing, but I also think that if there's value being derived from something, this is not something I want ad supported. I don't want someone posting a need and seeing an ad or something like that, or something.
I need groceries.
Yeah.
Campbell's.
Yeah, and I think we explored those things obviously in the beginning, just like kind of the what ifs. It just doesn't make sense, and I think it takes away from the application. And if you start to compare our pricing, kind of like sidebar to this, with what it takes to send out mass mailing via mail. Stamp in an envelope of paper, and more importantly, the person who's doing that. Or if you stick with that old operator rule, the person the people they can match is finite. Yeah. And they're going to get burned out from their job. And there's really no reason. I'm not saying fire your volunteer staff or cut your staff at your church. Better enable them to connect even more things and make So I look at what we're doing as $1 per active month. Or per active member per month. If you look at a community, let's say it's 10,000 people and half their community uses it, $5,000, sure, that's a lot of money, but that is the payroll of maybe 2 people. And there's no way 2 people could match the needs of 5,000 people within a month's time.
Totally. And I think that, we saw that this summer. We did this big serve day, and it was this big thing. We took Sunday off and just went and did all of these needs, but it was like the amount of time that it took our lead coordinator to plan all those events out, find all of those needs, and then get people signed up and figure out, okay, I need to plug you into this need, and hey, can we get a couple more people for this need and this need? By the time that Sunday was done, she had spent almost 2 months getting that ready to go.
One event, right?
And for one event. and the amount of needs that are being matched and being taken care of via the Common in churches across the country and around the world are so much more than what you're paying for the dollar amount. And I think it's really cool. The one thing that I really appreciated is that it's an active user. That you guys, you know, when you initially sign up, you have your email preferences that shoot you an email once a week saying, hey, here's needs that fit your ability. But until you actually go to the website, you're not an active user. Right. And so you can have every person in your church sign up in that first month, and their first month's free. Yep. And so everyone in your church can sign up, but until they actually start participating in a need, they're not an active user. And the cool thing is, it's basically, you can look at it that it's $2 for someone's need to be met in your church in a lot of ways. And I would love to spend $2 to see a lot of needs in my church be met. Right. And so I think the pricing model is awesome. Like that's one of the things I've appreciated, knowing that this has to come down to a dollar amount, but the dollar amount makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and you also have an opportunity to, and we have a feature in the system so that everybody in the community can actually donate towards to offset the cost of the Common.
Yeah, they can see how many people have been active in a given month and choose to donate X amount towards that, all of that, or even above and beyond, and it goes directly to the community. So if they're a non-for-profit, it's tax deductible as well and doesn't go through us. We don't charge any fees or any processing or anything for that. So
that's awesome. So, are there any last things that you want to say, you know, technically, or you know, anything that you've run into along the way that would be beneficial for people to understand about the Common?
Yeah, I think one thing that's important to realize about the Common is that even though we are on the internet, and you know, as the internet starts to become more and more embraced between communities, is that we're not a social network. And I think it's a small but interesting point. And social network being, you know, on MySpace or Facebook, or, you know, we're not a content management system for your church to, you know, we're very laser focused on something we're passionate about, and that's connecting the community to itself, to manage its own needs, to help, you know, the community on its own has got some own needs of itself, and then the ones outside. But we're not anything more than that. We're not a place we actually have this phrase, it's almost getting corny at this point, but it's like 10% double clicking and 90% real life. Like, I don't want people on the Common wasting time, like sharing pictures or like, you know, like giving status updates. I don't have a problem with that. There's other sites that do a fantastic job at that. And I think that we're really focused on matching needs and doing it really efficiently. And that's, again, the beauty of us being web-based, is that we're constantly iterating through, you know, how our site works and updating things. So we really trim down the features and really focus that anything you're doing on the site, whether you're participating in a group, which is a fairly new feature we just redid, or you're using your dashboard and you're posting a need or posting ability, it's all tied back to meeting needs and meeting abilities and tying them together. And then, you know, just getting that need met's great. Not everything that happens on the site. I mean, you just referenced some massive project that you guys are working on. We see tons of very little ones. In fact, I was just on our Twitter feed and saw someone got match need learning how to use Excel. It's funny because that isn't something you would go up on stage and like, you know, Betty really needs help with Excel, guys. Exactly. It would seem like, who cares? Right. But it does build community. It's a story. It's two people that probably didn't know each other that have met. And I think that ultimately, that's probably my favorite part of the stories and the connections between the people. And yeah, there's been amazing projects that have happened on the Common, but to not focus on being such a social network and so typical internet where you spend time on the internet, you kind of maybe waste time on the internet. This is just a way to meet needs and abilities. And I think we've wrapped it up well.
Yeah, well, and I'd also say that it requires a commitment from the organization to really make a push for it, to get people committed to the process and engaged. You know, we try and make the software as usable and engaging as possible, but you know, we're not physically there. Yeah. We're not physically on the stage every Sunday. We're not, you know, communicating with folks in the hallways. So we're trying to do all we can. We really need churches to kind of get the vision and invest in it with us.
Yeah, totally. There's definitely a large commitment that the church has to make into saying, we're going to take this and this is going to be our answer, and we need to put our energy and effort into making sure that people know that and use it. And I mean, we launched this week and we had 50 people sign up, but we need to make sure that people understand how to use it and that they're going to continually use it, and that we don't just push it for 3 weeks, but that we push it over the long haul, that people continually remember it, so that people don't fall away.
It needs to be part of the fabric of how the community
It
operates.
needs to be integrated. And if serving is truly, there's churches that you really need to, dare I say, kind of a bit of practice what you preach. If serving is your vision, turning the common on at your church and signing up everyone isn't going to make them start serving right away. It needs to be, like we're saying, part of the fabric of your community to serve. We just think we've worked really hard to create a great piece of software that makes it really efficient to do that. So you kind of have to be in that mindset already.
Yeah, no, I think that's awesome. Well, thanks guys so much for being here and doing this interview. If you guys have any questions or anything like that, feel free to go over to thecommon.org, sign up, find out more information about what's going on. I would really encourage you guys to sign up your community, because you guys are going to be able to meet a whole lot of needs in your community without you having to be so hands-on. I mean, to me, that's one of the most amazing pieces, is that you can have a staff team that's a lot smaller and still be able to meet the needs that a large church is maybe meeting with a huge staff because of this kind of tool. So head over to thecommon.org and sign up today. Well, this week's inspiration is a really cool video. It kind of takes a bunch of things that I love. Really nice 3D, a lot of typography, and classic like Frank Sinatra era music, and combines it all into one. And it's an ad for the New York Times newspaper, and I think you guys are gonna like it, so check it out.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. These vagabond shoes are longing to stray right through the very heart of it. New York, New York, if I can.
Dünyanın bir numaralı referans gazetesi New York Times, şimdi Türkiye'nin gazetesi Sabah'la birlikte her pazar sizlerle. Üstelik Türkçe. Sabah, Türkiye'nin gazetesi.
Well, this week's freebie is an interesting new one that we haven't done so far. I don't know if you guys have heard or maybe seen on my Twitter feed, but I and my wife are now in charge of our middle school ministry at our church, and so we're doing that every week as well as all the other stuff, so it's getting a little complicated here, but I'm managing to do it all, kind of. Sort of. But anyway, in the midst of that, we're planning games and getting teaching notes and series graphics and all that kind of stuff together. And I thought, well, why not share some of this stuff? So a game that we do, our middle school ministry is called Moto. A game we do at Moto is called 8 and 8. And basically you put a list on the screen of 8 things that people need to do in 8 minutes or less. And the first team to win, you do it in like small group size. So like, maybe 8 kids in every group or around that size. And then there's a lot of different things you can do. You can say, make an 8-person pyramid, run 8 laps around the room, or, all these different things. It doesn't all have to do with 8, but it's just this list of 8 things. So behind me, you can see the graphics for 8 and 8 that I'm going to give you guys. And it's just nice to have nice, clean graphics for when you're doing games and stuff like that, to have good support material, as well as it's an idea for a new game that maybe you hadn't thought of. That's a really easy one to do over and over again and have change up and be a little bit different. So head over to the website, download this in widescreen and in full screen. It's 8 and 8. Well, we wanted to say thank you to our sponsor, a longtime sponsor, and somebody you need to check out. It's dansInkandToner.com. Now, dansInkandToner.com is ink and toner and a whole lot more. They have wholesale ink and toner, but you can also get leasing programs where you can get a full-service lease on a printer, copy machine, or the whole 9 yards. That you can get repairs and ink and toner all combined into one package, and you can either lease that or buy it outright with all those plans, and it's going to save you guys a lot of money so that you can spend money on things you want to spend them on. So if you want to find out more, send Dan an email. It's dan@dansinkandtoner.com, or give him a call at this number, and he'll let you know what the best plan is for you. And he's a great guy, and he has the heart to help the church. He knows that you guys need to save the money, and he's going to help you do that. So check out dansinkandtoner.com. Well, thanks for tuning in to another edition of Church Media Design TV. I'm so glad you guys can be here. Hopefully you guys learned a little bit about the Common and what they have to offer, and maybe you'll implement that into your church. I know for us it's been a huge answer to prayer, and so I think you guys should really check it out, and what they're doing over there is just really awesome. So if you guys have any questions or comments about the Common or any of the resources that we've put up, or maybe you're looking for something, or you found a great resource that you want to share, send me an email, brad@ChurchMediaDesign.tv. Hit me up on Twitter, twitter.com/CMDTV, as well as you can join our Facebook group, facebook.com/CMDTV. And we would love to stay in touch with you guys. You can also leave comments on the website. And if you want to find out more about what Adam's up to these days, check out the business that he's working for that does some really cool stuff in the church world. Check out www.andcross.com. So as for me and the kind of three wise men in Jesus, we're saying, see you later.